The untold story of strength and hope, a powerful motivational story in the quiet valley beneath the shadow of great mountains. There lived a young woman named Mira. Her life was not painted in bright colors. She was born into poverty, lost her parents to illness before she turned 15, and had no one left to call family. Her small cottage, built of stone and dreams, stood on the edge of the village, where life seemed to move slower, and hearts carried heavy burdens. Yet despite her hardships, there was something unbreakable in her spirit, a light that refused to die. Every morning, long before the rooster crowed, Mira would walk up a steep, rugged mountain trail carrying 2 empty clay pots. Her destination was a spring that gushed from between 2 rocks, a place where clear, cold water flowed even in the harshest summers. The path was difficult, covered with thorns and loose stones. Some days she slipped, some days she bled, but she never turned back. Villagers often watched her from afar and shook their heads. "Why does she work so hard?" they would whisper. "Why not rest? She has no one to care for." But Mira never answered their questions. Her silence was her strength. One morning, as she climbed the path, she met an old traveler resting by the side of the trail. His clothes were dusty, and his face carried the lines of 1,000 journeys. Watching her struggle with the heavy pots, he called out, "Child, why take this hard path every day? There are easier routes to other wells." Mira stopped, smiled faintly, and said, "Because the easy path doesn't lead to the spring." The traveler nodded slowly, understanding the depth in her words. "You remind me," he said softly, "that those who seek life's purest water must walk the hardest roads." Years passed, and Mira continued her routine. The villagers began to notice that her little field, which she watered daily, grew greener than all others. Her crops never failed. She started sharing her harvest with the children who had nothing to eat. Slowly, people began to see her not as the poor orphan girl, but as a source of kindness and hope. Then one year, disaster struck. The sky forgot to rain. The river dried up. Wells turned to dust. The land cracked, and despair settled over the village like a dark cloud. People cried out to the heavens for mercy. The rich fled to the cities. The poor waited for miracles that never came. But Mira still climbed the mountain every morning. When others saw her carrying her pots, they mocked her. "You're wasting your strength," they said. "The spring must have dried like everything else." But she ignored their words and kept walking. Day after day, step after step. And one morning, as dawn broke over the peaks, she reached the spring and found it still flowing, pure and strong, untouched by the drought. Her eyes filled with tears. She filled her pots and carried them down to the village. At first, people doubted her. But when they saw the water glisten in the sunlight, their hope flickered alive again. She gave water to the children first, then to the old, then to those who had once mocked her. She never asked for payment, never demanded gratitude. When asked how she had kept going when everyone else gave up, she simply said, "Hope is like the spring. You'll never find it on the easy path. You must climb through pain, through doubt, through darkness. Only then does it reveal itself." Her words spread like fire. Soon others followed her path up the mountain. And though it was hard, though they stumbled and fell, they learned something precious, that strength is not about how much you can carry, but how long you can keep walking. Over time, the drought ended. The rains returned. The fields bloomed again. But Mira's story didn't fade. It became a lesson passed from generation to generation, the story of a woman who refused to surrender. Years later, a young boy, sitting by his grandmother's knee, once asked, "Grandma, did Mira ever stop walking to the spring?" The old woman smiled, her eyes filled with memory. "No, my child," she said. "Even when her hair turned silver, she walked, because strength isn't a gift, it's a habit. And hope once found must be shared." Reflection. Mira's journey is not just about survival. It's about the courage to believe when everything around you is breaking. She had every reason to quit loneliness, poverty, exhaustion, but she chose faith over fear, effort over excuses, and compassion over comfort. They might not be made of rock and stone, they might be dreams that seem too far, losses that feel too heavy, or challenges that seem unfair. But the truth remains the same. The path to strength and hope is never easy. It demands endurance, patience, and faith when all else fails. When the world grows silent and your heart feels heavy, remember Mira. Remember the woman who walked through pain to find the spring. Remember that hope does not come to those who wait for it, comes to those who climb toward it.